Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. We're producing this episode for GoodCrowd.info, and our guests today are Vincent Bradley and Megan Carlson of Flashfunders.
Thanks for having us, Devin.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining me. It's a thrill to have you guys. You are players in the equity crowdfunding space, and so I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I think this is one of those transformative things that so many people in the world today don't know about or understand. Take us through a little bit, if you would, Vincent. Tell us about the Jobs Act and Regulation CF.
Yeah, so for the first time in almost 80 years, the Jobs Act now allows, and specifically within the Jobs Act Title III, Regulation Crowdfunding, now allows private companies to raise capital from everyone. Not just accredited investors. They can raise capital from all 230 million Americans, which is huge because historically these people didn't have access to investing in early stage private companies. And early stage private companies didn't have access to going out to their customers and their community. They were restricted from only raising from high net worths, which, as I'm sure you know, in most of America, doesn't make a lot of sense if you can't invest in things you're passionate about.
Now, Megan, this has big implications for women, maybe more than any other group. Terribly disadvantaged in the venture capital arena, disadvantaged even in other traditional forms of financing, bank lending, almost anything you look at, all the data suggests women aren't getting their fair share. Early data in crowdfunding, in the rewards and donations crowdfunding, seem to suggest this goes away in crowdfunding. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I definitely think that equity crowdfunding and opening up, these types of investments to a broader pool of investors will benefit women founders. I think, not only have we seen this in traditional donation-based crowdfunding, but a lot of times when you have maybe a female-specific product or a female target, as a woman founder, you're limited going to speak to, all of those venture capitalists that, are traditionally older white males up in Northern California, because they might not be able to see the same vision for your product that you may have. So, now equity crowdfunding, I think, will empower those women more, will enable them to go after their end consumer, will enable them to activate their customers and their communities around their fundraise.
It is interesting, Vincent. You've probably seen this too, that venture capitalists have used for as long as I can remember, so for at least a generation, kind of one of their screening tools by design is, can you get a quality introduction to me? Yep. And that has inherent in it, although it sounds like fair game, it has an inherent bias in it. Because the venture capitalist is more likely to know other people who look like him, white, middle-aged men, right?
Yeah, it's truly the good old boys club. And, I've raised capital for 3 businesses and I benefited from that. I think what we see when the internet is the media in which you're fundraising is that it's more objective. Mm-hmm. And as you mentioned with Kickstarter and Indiegogo, people are focused on the product. They're focused on the problem that's being solved. They don't care about the color of the skin or the length of your hair or your sex. If you have a great product, they're going to get behind it. And so it truly is democratizing access to capital.
It's very exciting. Now, tell us a little bit, Megan, about some of the companies that are already on your platform. I realize that there are rules around what you can tell us, and you probably can't tell us much, but give us the quick high level of a couple of the companies there that are pitching today.
Yeah, so we have 3 companies currently fundraising on Flashfunders under the new regulation, Regulation CF. The first one that we went live with is Mobile Spike, and they're, kind of non-traditional in what you would traditionally see going, the Reg D route. So they help basically law enforcement to be able to stop police car chases more efficiently and more safely. And they've been a really interesting one to watch because, traditionally going after their customers, law enforcement might not be accredited investors, right? They might be, people in the Midwest, they're spread all across the country, and they've seen a ton of interest from those people that are out there on the job every day, that believe in the product, that see the potential, for that to make a huge difference in police chases. And then also, even
and Devin, we actually have to be a little careful talking about the companies too much. But I think what we can talk about overall is that they're very much companies that are consumer focused, who have built-in communities and existing customers.
Yep.
Not a great place or Flashfunders and equity crowdfunding is not a great tool if you don't have a community or customer base to go after. If you're at the idea stage, it's probably a little too early to come work with us.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're seeing already. All the companies that we're working with for Title III raises have established communities that are really passionate to activate in their fundraise.
Yeah, and that's what we're seeing, not just on Flashfunders, Devin, but across the industry. Lots of microbreweries. Actually, alcohol is the most successful vertical right now, because you can't raise capital rewards-based on Kickstarter and Indiegogo if you're an alcohol product, but you can sell equity in your business. And so we're seeing a ton of success with alcohol specific businesses. Yeah,
and health tech as well. That seems to be like one of the highest categories. So, I mean, we're seeing it across the board on Flashfunders, in the last 18 months and across all of the industry as well.
Yeah.
There have been some academic studies that suggest that altruism is a meaningful factor in crowdfunding campaigns. And it's been intriguing for me to see how that might manifest itself in the equity crowdfunding arena. And it sounds like the health tech might be a hint at that direction. What do you think? Oh no, did I lose you? Have I lost you? Are you there?
Yeah, we got you, Devin.
Okay, so what's your take on altruism and social causes, social entrepreneurs raising equity in this new arena?
I think that's the backbone of the whole idea of crowdsourcing. And crowdsourcing is so much more than just equity crowdfunding. It's donation based, it's rewards based. It goes back to micro lending. I think that's, historically where crowdsourcing really has its roots. And you're going to be successful when you're able to connect with people that care about what you're doing. And so when we're selling equity, it's even more important than anything else, because you're at a very early stage in a business where there potentially is great upside. But the reality is most of these early stage businesses fail. I mean, that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. And so you're betting on people to succeed on a business that you care about. And there's a big risk there. You're not getting a product in return. You're participating in a long-term vision. And so I think altruism is incredibly important.
Yeah, and I think beyond that, I mean, like the social good component that you're seeing, there hasn't been a huge major example coming out of equity crowdfunding yet. It's still a little bit early, but we're already seeing, this trend emerge in millennials with like impact investing, right? People that want to invest in public companies who share their values. So I think you'll see the same trend, moving forward in equity crowdfunding. It'll be a great place to, activate those communities.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you think about this space rolling forward, we've got to think about the investors who are relatively new, maybe entirely new, at investing in startups. How do you coach someone to make their first early investments in startups?
Yeah, what I tell people is it's the same principles that the great investors use. Invest in what you know. So Warren Buffett, he's one of my investing idols. Warren Buffett invests in what he knows, and he invests for the long term. So he's not looking to make a quick buck. He's not investing in sectors that he doesn't intimately know. He invests in things he personally uses. When we talk about technology investing, one of the great investors here in Los Angeles is a man named a gentleman named Chris Sacca, who's at Lowercase Capital, and Chris is invested in Twitter, and he invested in Uber, and he's had a bunch of home runs, Airbnb. And he only invests in products he personally uses, that he personally uses and personally loves. And I think if you do that, you're gonna be okay in the long run. So the other big thing, Devin, is diversification. If you make 10 investments, if 5 of them are gonna fail outright, historically, if you look at the numbers, 4 are gonna have somewhat of a return, maybe get your money back, and 1 is gonna be a level of success. So 1 in 10 is a typical number, percentage, 10%, if you're going to be successful as an early stage investor. So you got to diversify. And then if you stick to what you know and what you love, you're going to end up, at least being able to accept the results.
What's the minimum investment on your platform?
It's $50 on Flashfunders.
Okay. And then what are the fees that the investor pays in order to make that $50 investment?
So we don't charge the investor anything. We take a 5% success fee on the company. So it's very similar to the rewards model that you see on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, where if the company is successful in their fundraising, we take 5% of the total fundraising.
Great. And then the companies have other costs as well, depending on how much money they're trying to raise. They may need an attorney, they may need an audit or a review. What are you seeing your customers, your issuer clients, what are they paying for those kinds of services? Do you have a sense?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on a couple things. So when you talk about legal, we will provide template term sheets for companies, which can drastically lower the cost on the legal side. If you want to use your own term sheet and you want to manipulate some of the terms and you have a lead investor, it's going to increase the cost. And, that could be a couple $1,000s. Financial review is coming in right around $2,000 to $5,000, depending on the size of the company and the complexity of their financials. So, there's real costs there. And then the big cost is marketing. And this is the same cost associated with running a rewards campaign on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. You have to be ready to do PR. You have to be ready to go out and do some promotional paid advertising, promote some of your tweets, promote some of your Facebook to really get the catalyst behind organic social strategy. And then the other big cost is you want to create a great video. You want to create great marketing assets. We don't do that for you at Flashfunders. It's really on the company, on the entrepreneur to do that. And so what I tell entrepreneurs is if you want to be successful, you got to be ready to put in 3 months of your time, and it's going to cost anywhere from 10 to 20 grand. And that's not abnormal for Kickstarter and Indiegogo. I mean, that's what it costs. It takes time and money to be successful. And so you got to be ready to do that. It's not necessarily cheap, dumb money as some people would say.
Yeah, and to Vinny's point, it definitely does depend on the maturity of the company, right? If you're an earlier on company that hasn't established like a brand DNA, doesn't have a bunch of assets, has never filmed a video before, there would be more upfront costs to explain your idea and your product versus if you're farther along, you might be spending more money on the legal and the CPA reviews.
Devin, the reality is I really feel like equity crowdfunding is a great new route for access to capital. If you're an existing business with customers, with market acceptance, you have product market fit, and venture capital isn't an option. They don't think your business is sexy enough. They don't think it has enough of a hockey stick curve, but you have a solid business and you have people that love it. It's a great place to go raise capital now. If you're two guys with an idea in a garage, you're probably a little too early for us. Maybe go to Kickstarter and validate your idea, get product market fit, and then come work with Flashfunders and come work with other equity crowdfunding platforms.
Yeah. Well, Vincent, let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
You clearly are becoming a role model to a lot of people. Certainly you're successful. Who do you look up to as a role model?
For me, I know this is kind of the status quo for some people, but I'm going to say my mom. My mom raised 3 boys, kind of 5. We had 2 other kids living in the house, all hockey players. My mom has a master's degree. She has a PhD. She has an MD. She's a rock star. She's chief medical officer at Trinity Healthcare back in Michigan, where I'm from. And somehow she managed to raise 5 boys and be the matriarch of our family, and still be successful professionally. And I think that being able to see her juggle all these things has taught me how to work really hard, how to be a strong leader, how to manage your time, because time is the most important thing we have. And she is absolutely the person I look up to. If I can accomplish just a couple of the things she's been able to do, I think I'll end up being what I consider successful in life. So she's taught me a lot. That's
great. Now, Megan, you could be doing anything. You're a talented, proven young executive. Why do you care about crowdfunding? Why do you have a passion for this?
Yeah, I think initially when I joined the Flashfunders team, for me, it was really about, that empowerment for a broader source of capital for entrepreneurs, right? I think, I have a lot of friends starting their own businesses. I have a lot of friends that have been, successful via the traditional routes, but I think, the more equal distribution of capital across the country and the world is really fascinating to me. I'm from Portland, Oregon, not a tech hub, but definitely more up and coming. And I think this idea that you could now start a company in the place, where you live or where you've made your home is really powerful. And to be able to access a broader, network of investors, I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, Megan, let me ask you one follow-up question. We try to ask all of our guests for what I call an impact hack, some way to help us do more good every day.
Yep.
What's yours?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. For me, my impact hack, if you will, would be supporting companies for which, I share the same values. I think that's, something I really try to do in my everyday life. Whether it's supporting Lyft because I have issues with, things that Uber is doing, and, feeling more safe with their driver vetting processes, whether it's, Patagonia, the 1% for the planet. I think, I continuously try to support those companies, which I think are doing good in the world, to hopefully perpetuate and make them stronger.
It's interesting you use the Uber Lyft example. I've been making the same transition myself of late for the same kinds of reasons, to see if we can't be kinder to the drivers. Vincent, what about you? What's an impact hack that you would offer up?
I think a lot of people have great intentions to want to make a positive impact in the world, and fear prevents a lot of people from acting. So I'm personally involved in some projects outside of Flashfunders that are in the water conservation area and food conservation area. And these are huge projects. In some cases, it's let's solve world hunger, which is a project Crop Trust is working on. And I think it's really easy to get overwhelmed by the task at hand. It drives fear into people. And so I try to remove fear from the equation. I'm not going to make decisions based off of fear. And that's my hack. And that's what I try to push on to other people, is be fearless and make the problems really small, break them up into small pieces, because then they become actionable and solvable. So when you're working on something really big, whether it be equity crowdfunding or solving world hunger, or I'm looking at your pin right now, and polio, that's a really big problem. But if you can break it up into small pieces and you can remove the inner fear that we all feel as human beings, you can accomplish incredible things. And so that's my hack. That's my social good hack, Devin.
All righty. Well, I want to thank both of you for your time today. And Megan, perhaps you could just wrap up with some contact information. How do people find you on social media? How do people sign up to raise money at Flashfunders? Just walk us through quickly how people can connect with you and get to work.
Okay, yeah, so it's flashfunders.com. If you go to the Raise Capital section, it'll spit you right into an application if you are an entrepreneur looking to raise capital. I would say otherwise, Twitter is probably the best place to find us at Flashfunders. And then you can email either Vinny or myself. We're our names, Megan at Flashfunders and Vincent at Flashfunders directly if you have any follow-up questions.
Yep. Awesome.
Fantastic. Well, I thank both of you for coming and wish you every success in helping entrepreneurs raise more money.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us, Devin.
All righty. Let's do some good.